Making your first web page is actually really easy. It's a lot easier than you probably expect it to be. That being said, it probably won't be as impressive as you expect either, but that's okay. If you're on a Mac like I am, we go into our Launchpad and we're looking for text edit. Mine is inside of this other folder. Yours might be somewhere else. If you can't find it, you can always use the search function up top. So mine looks like this, but yours probably doesn't. Yours probably looks like, let's see, restore all defaults, close it and reopen it. Yours probably looks like that, and you don't want that. This is rich text format, so you've got like fonts and sizes, and you can use the rulers and tabs and all these things to format it certain ways. That's not useful for making a web page. The reason being is even if you can't see the formatting, like you can't see that it's telling it to be Helvetica, or you can't see that it's telling it to be a certain size or centered or whatnot, there is code in there to format it the way that you're telling it to. So whether it's Helvetica or Amico or size whatever, there's code in there telling it to be that we just can't see. And if you're creating a web page like this, that coding will cause problems. It's not going to cooperate well. Before we do anything, we need to go into our preferences and we need to change this to plain text. We want to click off some of these options here, so like take off smart quotes, smart dashes, probably text replacement, probably correct spelling automatically, because when you're typing in the codes for the different tags and whatnot, you don't want it changing them on you. Anything else? You can change this if you want. I think I'll change mine to be a bit larger just so it's easier for you guys to see. Now, which font you want to use can make some difference. You want to make sure that you're using a font where you can easily distinguish like the difference between like a capital I and a lowercase l, or a 1 or a capital O versus a 0. Because when you're looking at code, if you can't distinguish between some of those, that could be problematic. So decent fonts would be like Courier. Courier is a pretty decent one that you probably have. If you're on a Mac, you probably have Monaco. You probably don't have Inconsolata, but that's one that I like. So that's what I'm going to use. You can find this for free on Google Fonts if you want to use the same one. Alright, so let's see, plain text, that all looks good. If we move over to the open and save category, we can take off that. We don't want it adding a .txt on the end of our files. And that. Display HTML files as HTML code, not formatted text. Everything else looks fine. Oh look, there you go. You also have this option here, display RTF files as RTF code instead of formatted text. So when I was talking about how if you're using Helvetica or this font or that font or which size, this would actually show you what the code looks like, which could be kind of interesting if you wanted to see it, I suppose. Anyway, now if we go here and we look, it looks the same. And yeah, that's how it is. So we need to quit text edit and reopen it, and then those changes will take effect on new files. So can go up here to text edit and tell it to quit. I can also use Command Q. It's going to ask if I want to save. I don't want to save because I haven't done anything yet, and I don't want to accidentally use this same file later with the wrong settings, so don't save. I will relaunch it, and now it looks the way that I want, and if I type, it's using my Inconsolata font. You know, I'm going to make that actually a little bit bigger just so it's a little bit easier for you to see. Let's go with 24. There we go. That looks pretty good. So all we're going to do for our first one is actually really, really basic. We're not even going to use any tags. All we're going to type is hello world. So hello world is sort of the default starting code for any language that you're using. It basically makes sure that you know how to like save and store and run a particular code before you actually start trying to use the syntax or some of that stuff. So we've got hello world. If I tell it to save, I'm just going to put it on my desktop just for ease. And we can call it hello world.html. The .html is important. That's what tells it that it's a HTML file, a web page type of file. Put a dash in between hello and world because that's how Google prefers separating words. They prefer dashes. They kind of treat that as spaces, sort of. So we'll hit save. And, oh, there it is. Now if I quit text edit, so if I right click and tell it to open in Firefox, there we go. We have hello world working inside of Firefox. Now we didn't use any tags and we didn't do anything actually HTML wise, but you saw that it worked, and technically we just made a web page. We'll do some better stuff later, but hopefully now you have the rough idea of where you write the code and where you save the code. Now if you're on a PC, it's a little different, so I'll show you that next. So if you're on the PC, go to your start menu, and we're going to look for Notepad. You could try to find it, but I would just search for it. So here it is. This is what we want. You can see it's already in plain text format. We don't have to go in and modify anything like we did on the Mac. Now if we do go to format, we can change what font we're using, and we can change the size. By default, mine is using Consolis. You could switch to Courier. There's some other ones that you can switch to as well. I'm okay with Consolis. I think Consolis is fine, so that's what I'm going to stick with. I am, however, going to change the font size so it's a little bit easier for you to see what I'm writing. So just like before, all I'm going to do is type hello world. Nothing fancy, no tags for right now, just to show you that it works. Now we're going to go save as on my desktop. I can switch to all files if I want. I could leave it as a text document as well. I just need to make sure that the extension is correct. So hello-world.html. You don't want the text on there, make sure that's not there. Change the encoding to UTF-8 like we had on the Mac. If we hit save, we can see it's on my desktop. So I'm going to open with, you should have Internet Explorer, but hopefully you have something else as well. So I'm going to go ahead and use Chrome. If you want to use Firefox or something else, that's fine. There you go, you can see it worked. So that's it. That's creating a hello world.html file on the PC. It's really not that different. Now what if you're on like a Chromebook, or you're on a mobile device, or you're on something that can't save? There are a few other options. There are some web-based services that you can use where you can write your code there and save it. There are quite a few out there. I would say the simplest one to get started on, and I'm not necessarily saying it's the best, but it's pretty good, is Replit. So it looks like this. One of the nice things about this too is if you like using it, it can support a wide variety of languages as well. So there's Python, JavaScript, HTML, Scheme, C, Swift. There's a bunch in here. It's pretty impressive. But we want HTML. Now there's HTML, CSS, and JS. Is there just basic HTML? No. So we have to choose this one. But that's fine, because if you needed to, you could use this through the whole course here, more or less. So when we click on that, we get all of this stuff. And these are tags, and we haven't talked about tags yet. We will, and this will all make sense to you shortly, but for right now, let's just go ahead and delete it. And you can type in hello world, just like we did before, and you can tell it to save. And if we hit enter or run, there we go. There's our result. So it worked just the same. Once again, this isn't the best way to do it. Like, we should be using some of those tags, but it works, and we'll talk more about that later.